Buffalo After Dark is proud to recommend I Barbecue for You. Pre-orders are suggested by calling 716-880-7667. I Barbecue for You, Buffalo's new barbecue destination.
Just move the coyotes. Don't do another expansion team.
Right? It would never crossed my mind. So somebody called the house when I was out mowing the grass.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Holy shit, your face is like purple.
Are you still up? Now in your fifth season, it's Buffalo After Dark.
Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is Wednesday night, March 26th. We were actually supposed to be here tomorrow, but we actually moved it up a night, so it's all good. We're on our usual Wednesday, but good old Hanson, you're nursing a hockey injury, so that's how we moved it up tonight. How's it going?
Good. And if you want to know about my injury, if you remember, I actually talked about this a year ago where I said that I was dealing with something called bicep tendonitis. And I think chances are this time around, I might have re-aggravated while doing a big job on my job. And I think I not ruptured, I whiplashed my arm, and that's how I probably got it back. So
Gotcha.
right now I'm just taking it easy and I'm using a massage gun and just helping myself out because I could really use my arm because I need it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hey, whatever you gotta do, man. So, all is good. But yeah, definitely, take care of it, and everything should be good. And then, of course, now we're here on our usual Wednesday. So we've got a little bit of time tonight. We'll talk to you about some different sports things going on as we usually do. And of course, if you want to join, feel free. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. And of course, if you want to watch some of our older stuff, go to Spotify, and we do have some episodes and everything that you can certainly take a look at. So we are going to get started, and we're gonna, we'll hit a little bit of the football stuff today, and we'll start that first because there have definitely been some deals that have happened. There's been some notable signings, and of course ESPN wants to get bigger. So let's talk about that one first. And ESPN, they are mad that NFL Network is kicking its ass, so now they want to buy it.
I
And Lord
can't
knows
help.
what they would do, but they would probably dumb it down to the point where NFL Network would suck if ESPN takes it over.
Well, here's what they're basically saying, and it's being reported by Core Cutters News on Twitter. They said that there are rumors that ESPN wants to buy NFL Network, NFL Red Zone, and NFL Plus for $2 billion.
That is crazy, and yet ESPN's owned by Disney. They've been getting rid of people left and right. They've been supposedly losing money. And the only thing that saved ESPN recently is the fact that the Pat McAfee show is like their most watched show on the entire network now. And they don't even own this show, so they can't even like really tell McAfee, "Hey, we don't want you to talk about this." And McAfee's like gives them the big middle finger. It's like, "Yeah, we can talk about whatever the hell we want. It's my show." So it's funny like how the whole situation works out, but yeah, for a network that talks about how they don't have money to do stuff and now they want to buy NFL Network, I think they're just scared about the fact that NFL Network does better football coverage than they do.
Well, I personally can see this going through for two reasons. It'll save the ESPN some money because, well, how many things do we need that's become a streaming service as of late? NFL Plus, ESPN Plus. Why do we need to add more than we have to? I remember about 6, 7 years ago, I remember when DC Comics tried this, where they had DC Universe, which was kind of their own platforming service,
Yeah.
where you could collect comic books, you can get your own movies and shows there and things like that, and you would pay like 10.99 a month or something like that. But
Mhm.
then it died like a year later, like since the pandemic. But aside from that, it was a failing product. So I feel like with ESPN getting desperate with saying, oh, we want to buy Netflix. Oh, we want to buy this. ESPN is getting so desperate because they know that it's becoming a woke, dying brand where, in order to save themselves, they have to get other companies' products. Like they're trying really hard on the NFL. They already cut ties with MLB Network. We talked about that a few weeks ago, and it's like, so my guess is they got rid of MLB tonight on ESPN, where their primetime games would be.
Mm,
They got the NHL treatment. They
right.
got fucked off, and then now they want to use that revenue to buy all three of the big three-headed monster products that the NFL currently has with NFL Network, NFL Red Zone, and NFL Plus. And plus, I also look at it this way, is that a lot of football fans will not tune into ESPN because they know that if the NFL agrees to let ESPN buy the product, it's going to go to shit, and they know it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, think of it in this way. I mean, if they were to buy NFL Network and they were to buy the streaming service that they have, then it's like, okay, who do you keep? Who do you get rid of? So there's definitely going to be some changes, obviously, that would happen. But then, of course, with a lot of the streaming services, I mean, they could make some money off of it, and then there you go. It's a great way to boost the income of the network. So, I mean, do I want to see NFL Network get sold? No, I personally don't because I think that they do a better coverage, especially when it comes to the draft, and they do a lot of good things. But time will tell, and it's just only in the beginning stages where it might happen. So definitely an interesting topic to talk about, and actually a very interesting thing for us to keep an eye on as that goes a little bit further with any developments. But
It's definitely like worthy of something because a few weeks ago we talked about how ESPN wanted to buy the product of like YouTube TV or something where they
mhm,
wanted to host all their games on Netflix and now they have this coming out. I'm not exactly sure how that would work. I would rather if the NFL just stayed independent
mhm,
and be like that for a while. That's what I would rather prefer. Plus, you also have to understand that a lot of people use NFL Red Zone. They use NFL Plus when they're on the go. A lot of
mhm.
people don't like other sports. There's some people who don't like basketball. There's some
Yeah,
people who don't like football. You have to be very balanced. But the thing with ESPN is they've become the sports equivalent of CNN, where they're just spewing bullshit. They're not really reporting any news anymore. Like they're not doing what we're doing, or we're just having a basic conversation about this
mhm.
shit. They can't do that without uh going on a political tantrum. Actually, it's funny you said that because recently, I don't know if you heard, you know that show Around the Horn?
Yeah, yeah, and basically it's getting canceled.
Yeah, I think May 23rd is the last day of the show.
Hmm.
So, and a lot of it has to do with Mina Kimes, who's a angry, raging liberal who basically went on a temper tantrum on Around the Horn and talked about Trump. And I'm just like, that is the stupidest thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, just keep it sports focused. That's what made the show good originally, is when they talked about so many different things in sports. In fact, I remember actually back, way, way back, and this was my last year in high school, I actually worked for a major sporting goods store, Dick's Sporting Goods. They're everywhere. I actually worked there for 2 years. What was one of the things we always had on the TVs in the store in the early afternoon? Around the Horn.
Yeah. And that was a big thing.
It
But
was.
the big thing about Around the Horn and PTI and all these shows is that back then those were golden, for
Hmm.
ESPN at that time. Now it went from being a powerhouse for sports news to a big, to a massive shit show that it's losing viewers every day. It's canceling big shows like Around the Horn. We were just talking about this. I feel like now ESPN is desperately trying to do what Disney does. And if you've been paying attention to Disney in the last, I want to say 10 years, 15
Hmm.
years, they have no original ideas anymore. So instead, they milk off of the original Disney movies, like Snow White, for example, which, by the way, the
Hmm.
remake for that was a complete flop, if not
Yeah.
the biggest flop in Disney history. And I think, if I read it correctly, as of this recording, Snow White right now has a 1.8 rating out of 10 on IMDb.
Yeah, I heard it's absolutely awful in terms of what they ended up coming up with. So, and it's
Gee, I wonder
no
why.
surprise,
Quite literally, I'm not even a big fan of Disney, and even I knew that was going to be a fucking joke.
right?
And considering that ESPN is trying to do the same thing, where they can't come up with original shows anymore because they know they're going to just cancel it eventually in the near future.
Hmm.
So fuck it, let's just buy NFL Network. Let's just buy NFL Plus. Why do your own thing? Why go through them if you can't beat them? Join them. That's the motto here.
Hmm.
What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So basically, hey, ESPN, if you can't beat them, buy them. Is basically what they're doing. Just like
And
Disney, if you
almost
can't beat them, buy them.
well, I'm also under the impression the NFL is going to say no because, well, it's their company.
Yeah.
And I know that ESPN covers their games on Monday Night Football and
Mm,
the draft and all that jazz. But the NFL right now, I think, makes more money than ESPN themselves.
yeah. Oh yeah, they do. so so it's good stuff. It'll be interesting to see how everything turns out, obviously, with the possible sale and how it all goes. But that being said, we've had a pretty interesting week in football altogether, and the New York Giants go from one of the shittiest QB rooms to one of the more interesting because not only did they sign one QB, they signed two QBs, Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson are both joining the Giants.
Why?
That's what I asked when I saw it. I'm like, okay, first you sign Russell Wilson for 1 year, then you do Jameis Winston for two?
And now they're talking about drafting Shador Sanders at 3.
I don't get it, man.
And you wonder why no one's going to want to go to the Giants at free agency. Because you know what? I think Brandon Bean let him go intentionally because he knew that Jones just such a shitty GM by himself. And he knows that he's the right-hand man to Bean, and he couldn't manage a team on his own.
Yeah.
So he says, let me go get Brian Dable from Buffalo, bring him with me, and the other Buffalo degenerates, and try to run a team to the ground even more. Yeah, and on top of all that, all your free agents won't even go to you because you're the fucking general manager. And on top of all that, you're talking about drafting Shador Sanders in the process of getting Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. I don't understand this logic. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, two has been QBs.
I don't understand. Uh,
Yeah.
Like Russ is probably gonna end up at Cannon and Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston.
He's not a good QB.
Great personality though. I'll say
Yes.
that.
Yes. That part's good. But mechanically as a QB, he's not good.
No, it's not. And people wonder why the Giants suck because they can't do anything.
Yeah, they have
And
no damn offensive line around their QBs anyways.
like, oh my God. So basically, Daniel Jones, who has one confirmed playoff win, was released by the Giants not even a year ago. And you bring in a backup quarterback in Jameis Winston, who hasn't done anything as a starter.
Right. I mean, oh my god. the
This team is so backwards.
Yeah, it's like who's worse, the Giants or the Jets?
Oh God.
Because they both suck.
I don't even know who Jets QB1 is going to be. Well, we already
Uh,
know it's going to be Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor for the time being. But Tom, you bring in two backup quarterbacks at this point. You
right.
have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. I don't even think one of them is going to make it to training camp.
Right. They probably won't. And then even worse on top of it, how about the deal that Daniel Jones ended up signing to be a backup?
For Indianapolis to be behind Anthony Richardson.
Oh god.
Oh my God.
One
Yeah,
year
yeah.
for 14 million and having 13.15 million guaranteed.
He's making more money in 2 years. And actually, I'm sorry, he's making more money right now for one
As a
year
backup.
as a backup than Russell Wilson.
And he doesn't deserve it.
Oh, wait, did I say Russell Wilson? I meant to say Jameis Winston. My apologies.
Right. No, but Danny Dimes does not deserve that money.
No, he doesn't, and he hasn't proven it. I mean, the only thing he's done that's benefited him was that one playoff win a few years ago. That's it.
Exactly. And our buddy Brad from Kentucky ends up chiming in, and he says he feels we are 3 to 5 years from the NFL games on 100% streaming, if not the regular season, definitely the postseason, only being offered on paid streaming platforms. That's an
Well,
interesting thought.
well, it is an interesting thought, but you have to remember something, Brad. is if the NFL were to decide to go onto an exclusive streaming service, you're going to lose a lot of people. But I understand the NFL is a monopoly, but there are other ways of watching games. I don't think they'll ever do that for the Super Bowl, but I could definitely see it for the playoffs, if not already.
Yeah. And I mean, they've already done it to a little bit of an extent with some of the Thursday night games being Amazon Prime, and then of course they did some playoff games on Peacock this year. So
Well, that didn't work out too well. I think they only did it for 1 year because they
yeah,
realized how stupid it was.
yeah, it was pretty stupid too, especially when you have some of the biggest playoff games being on a paid streaming platform. It's like, come on.
Yeah, and you know what's funny too is that those two games that they broadcasted on their streaming service could have easily been streamed on regular television, which was,
Yeah.
and I remember what games those were too, by the way. One was in 2023 around Christmas Eve, the day before Christmas Eve was
Hmm.
Chargers Bills, and Buffalo won that game.
Yeah. Yep.
That's number one. And number two, the other one was a playoff game between Kansas City and the Dolphins, and
Hmm.
that was the cold ass game that where Dolphins players were bitching and moaning about the cold weather. And they said, they can't win shit in this scenario,
Yep.
but they thought, oh, we're gonna win the division easily, and you choke it away.
Yep. And of course, one thing that we're going to see choked away, and this is actually an interesting thing, Stefan Diggs is back in the AFC East because he signed a 3-year max deal with the New England Cheatriots, aka Patriots. 3 years, $69 million, and he gets to be
What
Drake May's right hand person.
26 million guaranteed.
What the fuck is New England thinking?
What?
Drake
Okay.
May, the Stefan Diggs are holy crap.
Did the Patriots not learn anything from Houston?
No, they didn't.
Oh my
And
God. I mean,
especially just coming off of an ACL tear, it's like, this has shades of Von Miller again.
oh God, yeah. And to think about it like this. 26 mil guaranteed, 3 years at 69 million. So, in my opinion, this to me is a desperation move for New England because they know that in order to get a wide receiver, they had to pay for one. And I think that's something they haven't done since what? Randy Moss?
Yeah, and that's how many years ago?
That was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. It is just absolutely crazy that they decided to do that. Now, I will say they did upgrade in having Mike Vrabel as their head coach, but good
Yes.
God, it's like you got to rebuild your entire damn team because you have no team.
Well, they've kind of adjusted to that because
Hmm.
they did bring in some, veterans
Yeah,
who were free agents, defensive players. Like they brought in, Harold Landry and they brought in I think his name was Hunter Spillane from the Raiders. Oh
yeah,
no, sorry,
which is not bad.
Robert Spillane from the Raiders to the Patriots, and
Hmm.
they brought in Carlton Davis. I mean, they brought in some good players
Yeah,
defensively, but people are under the impression that the Patriots, now that they added Stephon Diggs, they now suddenly think they're going to be a wild card team this year.
yeah, not
Bitch, do
happening.
you know who you're? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, not happening as far as I'm concerned.
It's like, bitch, do you know who your fucking receivers are? You have fucking Tyquan Thornton, Demario Douglas, right, as your 1-2,
Hmm.
and then you have fucking Mac Hollins and Stephon Diggs. So technically, you only have one eligible receiver.
Yeah, Diggs.
Basically, Diggs. I
Right.
mean, I'm happy for him that he went to the Patriots, and I'm happy for him that he got his money. But
Yeah.
why didn't he go to Dallas? He was talking about this for years, how he wanted to
Right.
play. He wanted to play with his brother. He wanted to be in Dallas, and then
Hmm.
it's like, and then when it came down to it, it was down to Buffalo, the Jets, or the Patriots, and I'm just like, oh great, here we go. It's gonna be a bidding war for a malcontent.
Yeah,
And New England,
exactly. And then if the Bills were to take them, then here we go with round two.
yeah, round two would have probably been much worse. But I felt like even if the Bills weren't interested in Diggs, that relationship between Allen and Diggs in the final 2 years together was is completely broken. And
Hmm.
we saw that firsthand when we went to Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly. We did, and it was not pleasant. So hopefully everything works out for Diggs the way he wants it to work out. But right now, if he thinks that the Patriots are going to the playoffs right now, it's not happening. They just don't have what they need. And speaking of another team that doesn't have what they need, well, Trey Hendrickson. Oh God, he still wants out of Cincinnati. He is not budging whatsoever.
No. And the rumor is from Jeremy Fowler for ESPN. He said Trey Hendrickson may sit out for the entire 2025 season if he does not get a new deal. He said, quote, I think it's entirely possible, based on what I'm hearing, for him to sit out the year if he does not get a new deal. I think that's his mindset right now. But for what it seems like, Hendrickson and the Bengals are at a standstill, and he is not budgeting. And if you remember a while back, he said, I want to be traded from
Yeah,
Cincinnati. I want to get
he
out of
made
here.
it very clear he wanted to be out.
Yeah, and we also talked about this too, was with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Both of those guys got huge paydays from the Bengals. But
Hmm.
also, we said this too, is that Burrow, Chase, and Higgins completely just locked up that entire
Yeah.
trio, which is a benefit for them offensively, but it will kill their entire fortune for the future.
Hmm.
Because locking up those two receivers and a quarterback at that rate, who by the way has not restructured his contract once with the Bengals.
Right.
And yeah, you have a pissed off defensive end who just wants a new contract, and he might have to be traded if he wants out, and he might have to sit out for an entire campaign if he's not traded. So there's a very good chance that Trey Hendrickson, either one or two options are going to happen. Either he stays in Cincinnati and he doesn't play at all, and the Bengals defense gets much much worse, or they trade him and they get some sort of value for him, but it's not going to be what they were expecting.
Right. Hey, Bills. He wouldn't be a bad addition. But
I
then
don't see him
again,
going with the
do you want to give up for him?
like I love the idea, but I don't think that the Bengals would trade him there, honestly. I don't think
Yeah,
so.
probably not.
I
Probably
think
not.
if anything, he could probably end up going to the Packers.
It would make sense. He'd boost their lineup. So, and even Brad ends up mentioning, well, the Patriots wide outside are trash. So it looks like Diggs will get the 300 plus season targets he wants.
Well, yeah, if he has to bitch and moan about it, then so go for it. But
Yeah.
I just think though, I like Drake May, and I like that he has the potential to be a really good quarterback in this league. But is it really worth having a guy who not only tore his ACL, but you gave him a shitload of money at 31 years old? Like, do you really think that's gonna benefit the Patriots?
No, they could have used that money in so many different ways.
They could have, but you also have to remember the Patriots, I think, had $130 million in cap space. So they were able to go out and get all these people that they wanted. And yeah, they did get better, but is it enough to say, yeah, we could be a playoff team? I
I
don't
don't think
know.
it is. I don't think
I
it
don't
is yet.
know. But I do think New England is right now on the right track to be competitive, but it's
Hmm.
not good enough to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to be a bottom basement team like they were last year. I mean, I don't think they're going to be like one of the teams like right at the like in the bottom five. I would say maybe depending on things, maybe towards the middle of the pack, depending on how things go, or maybe slightly lower. But I don't think it'll be like bottom five or bottom three like they were.
Right, but you also have to look at like this. You have the Patriots, you have
Hmm.
the Bills, you have the Dolphins, and you have the Jets, right?
Yeah,
You have the AFC East. Buffalo, we know, is probably going to win the division next year
right.
because Josh Allen is just amazing. We know
Yeah,
that at this point.
everyone knows he's lights out at this point.
Yeah, they know he's the real deal. So Buffalo's going to win the division next year. And then, unless something bad happens, knock on wood, they're going to probably win the division again. But then it really gets interesting from here. Who's going to be the worst between the Patriots, the Patriots, Jets, or Dolphins? Because everyone's like, "Oh, New England got better, Miami got worse, the Jets are
Hmm.
somewhere in the middle." There's no absolute guarantee of who's going to be the second best team in the division next
Right.
year.
Yeah, and honestly, the AFC East is probably the weakest division right now. I mean, you have the Bills, and then everybody else.
Well, I look at it like this. I think it's really going to come down to who has the best draft among the three. Because
Hmm.
we know the Bills, they hit and miss in their draft picks.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty confident this year they're going to do something nuts. Like, for example, I think they're going to trade up in the draft. I don't know what spot, but I firmly believe they're going to trade up.
Yeah.
And it's for everyone else. It's going to come down to what everyone else does.
Very true. Very true. And then thinking about some of the other teams in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers is still not found a home. And now there has been talk about him possibly going to Pittsburgh, but there hasn't been any type of deal that's been done as of yet. But I did see a funny meme that ended up coming out earlier, and it's basically you ever hear the show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's based in Pittsburgh. Well, what they did is they showed Aaron Rodgers looking like Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood with no deal being done because it's been that long, which is probably like 30 years after the fact.
Yeah, but I also think this is Aaron Rodgers' little off-season antic where he says, "Oh, I want the attention. Oh, I can't go on this off-season without some attention." It's like, Aaron, shut the fuck up and just sign, okay?
Yeah,
None of us want to hear your shit. Cameron Hayward is already pissed off at you. It's either like, dude, either sign with the Steelers or fuck off. Because
exactly. And the thing is, Aaron Rodgers, if you sign with the Steelers, you have a playoff contention team.
yeah, and not to mention, you would also get to play with DK Metcalf and George
Hmm.
Pickens.
Yeah. And you actually have a good running back core. And your defense is actually a pretty decent defense.
Exactly. But put it like this. So there was rumors that Aaron Rodgers was going to come down. It was going to come down to the Vikings, the Giants, or the Steelers for Aaron
Hmm.
Rodgers. Somehow the Browns are in this, but we're gonna get to the Browns.
Yeah.
But the Steelers, though, it was them, the Giants, and the Vikings for Rodgers. The Vikings already said no because they want to develop JJ McCarthy, which
Right.
is smart because the last time somebody did this was the Dolphins, where they said we want to trade for Josh Rosen. Oh no, I'm sorry, Arizona. Arizona did this,
Hmm.
where they drafted Josh Rosen, and then a
Yep.
year later they traded him to the Dolphins and they drafted Kyler Murray.
Hmm.
So yes, I don't think the Vikings want to take that chance.
Right. And JJ McCarthy's not a bad QB. It's just he blew his ACL
Well, it wasn't his ACL; he tore his meniscus.
or meniscus, but even still, I mean, he was not a bad QB in the limited action we got to see.
Exactly. And plus, played like this. And it's being said too that the Steelers, according to Jeremy Fowler, he said the Steelers are, quote, aggressively pursuing Aaron Rodgers after we met with Mike Tomlin, offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, and general manager Omar Khan on Friday for 6 hours.
Yeah. You don't meet with a team for 6 hours if you don't intend on having some type of deal done.
Which is quite literally what we're looking at now. And
Yeah.
what's even funnier is Ian Rappaport went on the Pat McAfee show and they
Hmm.
were talking about this topic. And they said, and Ian Rappaport said something very specific. He said, quote, it sounded like the meeting between the Rodgers and the Steelers went really, really well. And Pat McAfee pretty much wrote all this down. He said that he met with the Steelers for 6 hours. The meeting was reportedly very positive, and both sides will stay in touch. The Steelers and Rodgers have made contract parameters in places for weeks. The money was not a discussion point between the two sides during the visit, and the visit has a chance for both sides between player and team to get to know each other better.
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, for right now, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, take the money, join the Steelers. You're going to have a pretty good opportunity to make a decent run.
Oh yeah, and you know what's even more hilarious about Aaron Rodgers is
Hmm.
Aaron Rodgers now has a new demand. Because remember how he had all these demands when he was playing for the
Yeah.
Jets, and we all knew this was going to be a disaster.
Yep.
He's not only are the Jets were a victim to this, but it's looking like it's going to be the Steelers. And there's a reason I'm bringing this up. So Albert Breer brought this up. He said that Aaron Rodgers is searching for a team that has, quote, a culture such as the one of the Green Bay Packers have, so that he can join the best situation to play football and win. And it seems like Rodgers' preference was the Vikings, but they do not appear to be interested.
Right. Yeah, and if I'm the Vikings and if I'm JJ McCarthy, I'm like, do I want to sit behind Aaron Rodgers? Hell no.
Why would he? He's a fucking cancer.
Exactly. So, dude, just take the money, join the Steelers for a year, make a run, and then get the hell out.
Quite literally. And you know what's even more interesting is the whole thing with Rodgers is he wants to make it the best situation possible. And you know what too? Because I mentioned the Giants, there actually is some things I missed out on my phone because I have the list. There actually is some things I want to mention about the Giants.
Yeah.
That's actually very interesting. And obviously the Giants were one of the teams interested in Rodgers, but they went into a different direction, obviously, and went with Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
So This is what I want to read to you. And this is according to Ryan Dunleavy, who covers the New York Giants and the New York Post.
Hmm.
He said that some people around the league are beginning to believe that the Giants' plan at quarterback could be Jameis Winston, and another veteran and a developmental quarterback in the draft would be selected at number three. So, in other words, they're using Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as bait to draft whoever they want. But there is also a lot of smoke and a lot of connections to Shador Sanders. And this is according to both Adam Schefter and the Pat McAfee show.
Hmm.
And basically it's being said, quote, there's been a lot of smoke and a lot of connections for Shador Sanders to the Giants. And he's been raised to kind of perform with the bright lights and the big city. And I could see it just happening.
Oh boy.
Oh my God. So, in other words, the Giants skipped over Aaron Rodgers because the plan is to get two veteran quarterbacks to develop Shador Sanders.
Wow.
Have you ever heard the term too many cooks in the kitchen?
Yeah, exactly. And usually you only need one veteran QB. That's how
As of to,
Aaron Rodgers learned behind Brett Favre.
yeah, but here's the difference. Brett Favre is a Hall of Fame
Yes,
quarterback.
he is.
So he was in a very good position. Russell Wilson is a future Hall of Famer.
Right.
Yes. But
Right.
do you really need Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson to
No.
potentially draft a quarterback at three to take Sanders? Because here's the thing, and we talked about this too, is Deion Sanders is not going to allow his son to go to a shitty situation.
Exactly.
He's gonna go to the best one. And Deion Sanders has been very vocal about where he wants Shador to go.
Hmm.
And he's saying, I don't want him in Cleveland and I don't want him in Las Vegas. I want him with the Giants.
Yeah. So to be behind two QBs though, oh my god. It's not exactly the smartest thing in the world. But then talking about the Browns, there is the rumor Dak Prescott is on their radar.
Oh, God.
God.
God damn it. Do we have to?
I know, right?
What's an off season without not mentioning the Cleveland
Right.
Browns?
We know Dak comes up at least once or twice every offseason.
Oh God, yep. And it is being recorded that Bruce Dennen, who works as a radio host in Cleveland, he said the Browns are, quote, negotiating as we speak with the Dallas Cowboys for a trade centered around Dak Prescott. Why?
Why would you do this, Cleveland?
I don't get it. Like, why? There's no purpose for that at
Right.
all.
You're
What
getting
the
an
fuck?
overpaid QB that does absolutely zero.
It is so stupid. Like, I am.
I think it's just karma biting Cleveland in the ass after how they treated Baker Mayfield.
Yes, yes, that's exactly
Because
what
that's the
it is.
last time they won a playoff game.
Oh my God. Dude, imagine in the 5 year span. Imagine if you told me a few years ago the Cleveland Browns were going to not only still be garbage, but they would also try to get Dak Prescott. I would have laughed at you.
Yeah. And now the sad thing is it's actually potentially true.
Oh my fucking God, dude. And apparently the price offer was a first round pick. So the Cowboys were willing to take on Dak Prescott for the number three pick.
That is just crazy.
Yeah, quite literally. And apparently Denzel Ward was going to be in the deal and stuff like that. And I'm just like, there's no way the Browns are going to part ways with Denzel Ward. He's one of the best safeties in the league.
Right. They would
There
be
is no
stupid to
reason.
do it.
Well, Cleveland's already stupid.
Well,
I mean,
we
think
know
about it.
that.
But yeah, they would be even dumber. It's bad enough they already paid Miles Garrett a shitload of money.
Yeah.
That's number
And they
one.
paid Deshaun Watson a shitload of money.
Yeah, we knew that already. But it's like,
Right.
at that point in time, you got to think to yourself, it's like, what do you expect from the Browns at this point? I mean, you're desperately trading for Dak Prescott, as if you had to say within an audacity to everybody around the world. You told everybody that Baker Mayfield was not mature enough to be the leader of your team in the future. And instead, you went to go get a real man for a quarterback. And that real man just so happened to have 26 counts of sexual assault on his ass.
Hmm.
And he gets traded to the fucking Browns and got the highest guaranteed money ever given to a quarterback
Yep.
at that time.
Yep.
And that man is Deshaun fucking
Hmm.
Watson.
Yeah, and then what's happened since? Baker Mayfield ends up going around to a few teams, ends up playing with the Rams, ends up finding a home with Tampa, which he's actually turned it into a nice situation. And what has Baker Mayfield done? He's been making the playoffs.
Yes, and also he has Chris Godwin and he has Mike Evans as his 1-2 wide receivers.
Yeah,
That is pretty damn
yeah.
good.
And quite honestly, I mean, several years ago, I would have thought Todd Bowles is a garbage coach, but he's actually quietly built a pretty decent team. They're
I still
competitive.
I still think he's ass, but I only think the reason he still has a job is because of Baker. That's
Right. And of course, he won with Brady, so.
See, this is what I don't understand about the Browns. I really don't understand. Every good golden opportunity they've gotten, every situation they've ever gotten themselves into, they just somehow find a way to shit all over it.
Hmm.
Because it's like they've been doing this since they became an expansion team, not even 3 years after they left to go to Baltimore, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, the like we knew the Browns were a joke, but it's like I remember when the Browns got Baker Mayfield, I remember saying to myself that they were going to be a really good team. And, Baker, is he a first
Hmm.
overall pick material? No. But I remember that they were very high on Josh Allen. They were
Yeah.
very high on Sam Darnold.
Right.
But, God damn it. I mean, if anything, the Browns can't do anything right. I mean, you traded away possibly the best quarterback you've had in 25 years. And you literally just gave him away for a bag of beans. And yeah, he hopped from team to team to team to team. But Baker Mayfield literally took a situation that he got treated on so piss poorly,
Yeah.
and he goes to Tampa and he's killing it.
Yeah. He is the man in Tampa. He is the number one QB, and he remains the number one QB. And they've built a good team around him. So, and the flip side, Baker Mayfield, he made the best of a bad situation. And
He
Cleveland
re-
is still dealing with bad karma from it.
And the nice thing too is that he's going to be 30 in a couple of weeks. So at this point of his career, Baker Mayfield is still young enough to be a franchise
Hmm.
quarterback. He could play till he's 34 years old, and he could spend the majority of his time. If they consistently make the playoffs, the Bucks, I guarantee you, are going to keep him much longer than suspected. They
Hmm.
might keep him until he retires.
Yeah, they very well could. And if they keep building a good team
I mean,
around him,
that's
who
fucking
knows?
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, who knows? But on a good note though, I mean, at least he's finally got a solid spot that he doesn't have to worry about all the crap that happened in Cleveland. So that's a big plus. But then thinking about some other changes. The NFL is, of course, doing their usual rule changes every year. And, of course, the biggest thing that came out, how about that 35-yard touchback?
Oh yeah, yeah. So here's what's being said for those of you who don't really know what's going on. We're gonna tell you now. So it is being reported by Mark Mask, who I believe covers, I guess, the Tennessee Titans or whatever. But that's not the point. The point is that the NFL has included moving the kickoff touchback to the 35-yard line as part of the rule changes proposal on the schedule for the owners meeting next week. Additionally, they are including a proposal to expand replay assist to include picking up a flag if clear and obvious video evidence exists for face mask, hitting a defenseless player, horse collar, tripping, or roughing, and running into the kicker.
You keep watering down the rules, NFL.
So let me get this straight. They're allowed to make them pick up a flag on a face mask or collar, but they can't make them call when it blatantly happens.
Yeah,
That doesn't even make any
it
sense.
doesn't. It doesn't.
I, I love the Bills. I love football, but stop changing the rules to adjust everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
we didn't ask for the NFL to make these rules just because the Bills lost a playoff game. At least some of the rules they did was fair.
Yeah, exactly. At least the overtime changes were a good thing. I mean, at least that happened. Oh, of course now the Packers want the tush push like banned because the Bills and Philly do it so good compared to everybody else. But yeah, they're just mad they can't do it.
Mhm. That's exactly right. The
Yep.
Packers can't do shit, and they're butthurt because they are not only Philly's bitch, but they also can't beat them in their own game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, but yeah, thinking about it in that sense, hey, we went around the NFL in just over 40 minutes, so not too bad. But let's shift some gears because you know what? We're getting into the springtime here, and of course, you know what that means. That means baseball season because opening day is tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for baseball for sure.
Yes, it is going to be nice. Finally, the good old summer pastime. We get to see it, and actually, even thinking about it too. Of course, the Bison's start up here locally here in the next week or two, so that'll be good also. But as we start this baseball season, there's actually a couple of big things that came out. So one, the Minnesota Twins. Oh, good lord, they are in some big time debt.
You know how much money they're in debt?
It's bad.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know out there, the Minnesota Twins are 400, count this, $425 million in debt, according to Ken Rosenthal.
Yeah, that's just unacceptable.
And you want to know why the MLB is going to go on strike next spring? It's because teams like the Twins, as you clearly just heard me say,
Mm-hmm.
425 million in debt, okay? They
Mm-hmm.
have all that money that they could have spent to improve the team, and instead they love being mediocre. It's like
Yeah.
the Wilpons back in the day when they used to own the Mets.
Oh yeah,
They
they were
played in
cheap
a big
asses.
Yeah, they played in a big market, but they wouldn't spend. And that's exactly what happened to the fucking Mets with Wilpon family. And now it's happening with the Twins because it's like the owner doesn't want to spend shit. I mean, the closest thing he got to paying was Byron Buxton to a massive extension and then paying Carlos Correa out of pocket after finding out that, I could have took less for the Mets, but I went more for Minnesota. And
Mm-hmm.
yet they couldn't improve their pitching. They
Right.
couldn't improve their outfield. They couldn't improve their bullpen. That's how bad the
Mm-hmm.
Twins are.
Yeah, yeah, and then of course talking about another team that's cheap asses, and actually Rob Hazu would love this, but the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Paul Skeens called him out. He said basically, to put it in a nutshell, stop being a cheap ass and let's build a team because he wants to win.
No shit, Sherlock.
What are you gonna do? Waste Paul Skeen's first few years of his career and then watch him go to some other team like the Mets and basically totally kill it, win a World Series, and then you're just stuck with low grade players? I mean, come on, Pittsburgh.
Dude, I
You
would
have a
literally,
once in a generation pitcher who
quite
actually
literally.
cares about winning. You have Andrew McCutcheon who came back again because he cares about winning. Bob Nutting, build a fucking team.
Wow. Welcome to my world, champ.
Build a team. You've got these
Uh,
good players that want to win, so spend some money so they can win.
Well, going back to my original argument about the Twins, they're at 425 mil in debt because they didn't want to spend. And again, it's not a Minnesota Twins problem. This
Mm-hmm.
is a baseball problem.
Yeah.
That's why there's so little free agency action going on in the winter because owners are too cheap to go out and spend money because they're like, well, the Dodgers are going to probably get those players anyway. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the Yankees are probably going to get those players anyway. Things
Right.
like that. But at the same time, you have teams like the Twins, the Mariners, the Blue Jays, the Pirates, the White Sox. Help me out here. The Red Sox.
Yep.
These are teams that don't spend, and yet here they are. They're not
Mm-hmm.
doing jack shit to help their team, and because of their cheapness, this is exactly why Major League Baseball is expected to go on strike in 2026. And
Mm-hmm.
it's likely going to be a repeat of 1994. And if you know what happens in 1994 was the infamous lockout year that literally just took away the World Series dream from the Montreal Expos.
Yep.
And in the baseball business, we call this the Montreal screw job.
Yes, and it destroyed the sport because look at how the crowds were after the fact. Nobody wanted to come back.
Mm,
I mean, you
not a
had like
chance.
zero attendance anywhere.
Yeah, quite literally. And not only that, is because I think there was a bit of an issue where signing bonuses were a big thing back then, and players wouldn't want to go to teams unless they were given guaranteed money. Now there's a lockout that's about to happen almost 30 plus years later,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where there's teams that's not spending. And also in
Right.
terms of a salary cap and things like that. And again, this is a big problem in Major League Baseball because there's no cap, because there's no way of contracting this at all. There's no buyout option,
Hmm.
none of that.
Right.
So because if you spend God knows how much money on a certain player and you sign him to a 15-year deal, Mets with Juan Soto,
Yep.
if he plays like ass, you're stuck with him.
Exactly. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly. The Dodgers,
Hmm.
the Mets, we're
Right.
finally starting to pay, which is great. The Yankees,
Hmm.
those are, and the Red Sox are usually they're another team that spends money. But again, it's everybody else that's somewhere in the smaller markets like Kansas City and Pittsburgh.
Right.
They don't get the contraction like those big cities like New York
Yeah.
and LA do.
Or Tampa, which has a temporary home at Steinbrenner Field.
And you know what's funny? The NFL has a salary cap. The NHL has a
Yeah.
salary
The
cap.
NBA
The
has a salary
NBA.
cap, even with supermax deals.
Yeah, Supermax deals exactly in basketball. And I don't know dick about basketball. Baseball is the only sport in the major four that does not
Hmm.
have a salary cap. And the fact that they allow this to happen is bullshit.
Right. Exactly. And good job, Manfred. You suck.
Yeah, no, this is not going to fly. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
This will not be a good look. And speaking of money, if you want to get exactly where I'm getting at, Cal
Hmm.
Raleigh got a nice handsome extension on Tuesday with the Seattle Mariners. 6 years,
Hmm.
$105 million as a catcher for the Seattle Mariners. So now he's going to be playing with Julio Rodriguez for the next half decade.
Yeah. And it helps him out. And speaking of that, actually, we're going to talk a little bit about a nice little trip you have coming up. But before we get into that, though, of course, the Mets have new road unis.
Oh, I fucking hate it. I hate it. I mean, did you see it?
It is not a good look, guys.
Well, did you see the original uniform design?
I did see the original one.
Well, here's the new one. I'm sending it to you now because I feel like you haven't seen it yet. Check this out. It's the middle gray one.
And let me look.
Yeah, the blue one on the left is also
Yeah.
new as well.
Could have done a better job, Mets.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so major flaw number one. There is a trend going on with this uniform, and this might just be a me thing, but I feel like the Mets are slowly, not right now, but slowly, they are trying to rebrand back to the 80s. And it's not a bad thing, but
Hmm.
I feel like they're taking a modern look of their uniforms
Yeah.
and they're mixing it in with a little bit of 80s in there. So they're basically going with the New York or nowhere trend for their new uniforms in the Juan Soto era, which,
Yeah.
again, I don't have an issue with it, but it's like,
Right. Go a
why the
little
fuck
retro.
are yeah, it's a little retro, but why the fuck are you taking a jersey that was already really well known in baseball and you retrended it to make it more like a classic 80s look? I mean, the sleeves are orange and blue, and so is the
Hmm.
collar. And you
Yeah.
put a big ass Nike logo in there as well. I mean, granted, all MLB jerseys have that, but it's
Right.
like you took out the main logo off the patch of the jersey. It's
Hmm.
like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. I don't get it. It's not a good
I don't
look.
It's really not. I don't like it. I mean, it might change my mind if they maybe somehow play on the road in their full uniform. So
Hmm.
basically, the uniform that we've been accustomed to for 30 plus years, gone,
Yeah. Exactly.
gone.
Exactly.
And I even bitched about the blue jersey that came out a while ago. That, the one that had the script that said New
Yeah.
York. I bitched about that too because I felt there was too much blue on that uniform.
Hmm.
And yet, here we are. They're basically going with the trend. I wouldn't be shocked by next season, and let's hope there is baseball in 2026. But
Hmm.
let's hope
And I think we lost Hanson here for a moment because it looks like his Wi-Fi ended up
it's me the fuck
freezing up.
off. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, it'll be interesting to see what goes on, but unfortunately, it's not a good look, Mets. It really isn't. But But no, good thing we got your Wi-Fi back too, because you did cut out for a quick moment there. But that being said,
Well,
you've got a
well,
nice
do you
little
want me to
trip
repeat
coming
what I
up.
said?
See what happens. But that being said, you're going to be returning to the Emerald City because you got a nice little Road to 32 coming up as part of your trip, and it's going to be Road to 32. But you do the honors. What are you doing in Seattle?
I am going to a cruise in Seattle, but I'm not going till May 11th. But I am flying in on May 9th. Okay. May 10th is the date. I am going to the Seattle Mariners game on May 10th at T-Mobile Park against the Toronto Blue Jays. And I am
Nice.
doing, and I will in fact cover the Seattle Mariners for Road to 32, and there will be a trailer coming out in a couple of weeks.
Nice. So the return to Seattle for the first time, and it'll be, let's see, we went in October.
It would be six
March,
months.
April. Yeah, or actually right about 7 months. So yeah, you're making your return, which is all well and good. And this time you actually get to see a game at T-Mobile Park and not just go into team store like we did.
Well, I also did the same thing, and I said it last week. We did it in Camden Yards, where we were just inside the team store and went around the
Yep.
perimeter in Baltimore. I mean, that's a pretty easy trip for me to do.
Hmm.
But right now, my schedule is just really tight, with my family and all that stuff. But as far as this trip, I'm very excited about it because I've only seen three other teams. The Mets, obviously, the
Hmm.
Yankees,
Yep.
obviously, because I live in New York, the Phillies, which
Yep.
you and I
We did that
did.
last summer.
Last summer we did the Phillies, and then this summer I'm doing the Mariners because I'm going
Oh,
on a cruise in the middle of May to Alaska, and that's the main reason why I'm going. But I do have 2 free days ahead to myself. I'm leaving on the 9th, which is a Friday.
hmm.
The game is on the 10th, so I have an opportunity to go to a Mariners game, and I'm actually pretty excited about it because I remember
Yeah.
saying, and the funny thing is, I remember saying last week on the show that there was a 95% chance that I was going to go to a Mariners game, and I was
Hmm.
really excited about that. But I wanted to get the tickets for my flight, but
Right.
now I got them. So it is now confirmed I am, in fact, going to a Mariners game on May 10th against the Toronto Blue Jays. So I'll get a chance to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette again in Seattle.
Nice. That'll be a fun one to see.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it is Seattle, but it's probably going to be the same thing I did last time around where we took the monorail to go to T-Mobile Park. I'm not entirely sure,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
it's probably the same thing, I would
Yeah, probably
imagine.
something similar depending on where you're staying and all that. And yeah, because I remember we rode the monorail over to Climate Pledge, and then they had Link, which was the other train. We took that over to Lumen Field, and of course, T-Mobile Park's right next door. So
I mean, it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, it was a really nice,
yeah,
ballpark, but it's like it just sucks that I wasn't able to go inside because, it would have been cool.
right.
But now I'm actually getting a chance to do it, which is going to be really damn cool. I'm excited to do that. Where I'm going to take you guys onto another baseball trip, and it's going to be fun. I'm excited to do it, and it's going to be a really good, movement for my not only for us but for my channel as well,
Mhm.
where I could actually show you the ins and outs and details of going to a Mariners game.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be a great thing to see, and you know what, and definitely once that comes out, of course, you'll get to see everything here on the channel, and we'll have the trailer for you as well. And then one other thing, we'll jump into hockey before we wrap up, but one of the big things that ended up coming up is, of course, Jacob Chikrin was extended. And of course, we got some playoff news to talk about because that is getting very interesting as we get into the last handful of games of the season.
Okay, well, first off, the Jacob Chikrin contract is actually really stellar because now, if you look at the numbers, Jacob Chikrin's contract, it looks like this. It's going to be 8 years, $72 million. So
Hmm.
right now, he's making 9 million per season starting next year, and he's 26 years old.
Good payday for him.
You know what, too? What's funny is I remember this where the Sabres were very in on Chikrin. He would have never accepted this kind of deal in Buffalo, but he
No.
wouldn't even accept it in Ottawa of all places.
Right. And which surprisingly, the Sabres actually did beat Ottawa last night, so I will give them
Yeah,
that. And Lindy
and
Ruff
Dylan
did get his
Cousins'
600th
return.
win, but oh my god, our team is ass this year.
Yeah, and then Kevin Adams had this little, I guess, fan club thing with Lindy Ruff tonight, and he was like doing on his little rah-rah speech saying on how they're going to try to develop the team and they really want to get this right, things like that. If you want to make it right, how about fucking resign, fire Lindy, stop being such an incompetent prick, and actually bring a PO to the stage and actually have him or her run the team.
Exactly. President of Hockey Operations, that's goal number one. And goal number two, get a legit GM from outside the organization.
Yeah, and you know what too? They actually interviewed Bill Zito a few years ago, and what does he do? He turned the Panthers into a juggernaut. Imagine if the Sabres had Bill Zito as a GM, we wouldn't even be sitting here talking
Yeah,
about
we wouldn't
this.
have had this issue, and we would have probably been making some deep playoff runs.
Hell, they probably would have won a cup.
I know, that would have been great.
Well, we already know that's working out.
Yeah, yeah, absolute
Fuck,
shit.
quite literally. And I can't even express that enough.
Yeah, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. But the
But
playoffs are getting very interesting, though.
oh yeah, big time. And the race for the last wild two card spots in both conferences is actually pretty insightful. In fact, I want to get a score update before I read this to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So, as of now, playoff race is getting very, very tight between Toronto and Florida and Tampa Bay. It's a three-legged race for the Atlantic Division, and right now they're literally up each other's asses. Toronto and
Hmm.
competing for two playoff spots right now. That is insane. But I think it's really going to come down to three teams. It's going to come down to the Canadians, it's going to come down to the Islanders, and it's going to come down to the Rangers. Columbus has really fallen hard. Boston's
Yeah,
not going to make it. Detroit's probably not going to make it. This is a very satire.
they have. They have. There's been some questionable calls,
It's
and
not a good look on their end, honestly.
no,
I
definitely
mean,
not.
what is there to do about that? I mean, you were about to win against yeah, they were about to win against Columbus and quite literally fucked themselves over, with that call because the ref said, "Oh, there was goalie interference on Kyle Palmieri," and they screwed him over. They lost in the shootout,
Yep. Yep.
quite literally.
So, not a good look.
No, and in the West, you have the Jets, the Stars, and the Avalanche. Right, the
Hmm.
Jets are likely going to win the Central Division. Winnipeg is right up there with Washington. They're
Yep.
competing for the President's Trophy. Dallas and Colorado. Dallas is up by 3 points,
Hmm.
and then you have in the Pacific Division, you have Vegas, LA, and Edmonton. And if things stay the way it is, chances are very high that Vegas will win the division and LA will host Edmonton in the first round of the playoffs if the Kings play really, really good hockey with 10 games left to go, at least for them.
Hmm.
And then in the wild card, it's not as competitive as the East, compared to like the
Sure.
Rangers and the Islanders and all that. In the West, it's basically the Wild and the Blues. Minnesota, as of now, has 85 points. St. Louis went on a massive winning streak. I think they won 12 straight at that time, or they
Hmm.
went 12 over 2, some ridiculous run. Um, yeah, they currently sit at 83 points. Then you have Calgary, Vancouver, and Utah in this race. Yeah, Utah is alive.
Yes.
Vancouver is alive. Calgary is alive. But yeah, no, St. Louis and Minnesota, they're literally neck and neck right now for the last two wild card spots. The West is not even guaranteed yet because of Minnesota and St. Louis.
Yeah.
Hell,
It's wide
Utah
open.
could yeah, hell, Utah could very well get in the last minute. I know they didn't do anything in the trade deadline, but they could still make it in. But I
Yeah.
think their approach is that they want to keep the core as it is, and then build the team up in free agency and in the draft and all that,
Yeah, which
shit.
for them, it makes a lot of sense, and they've been quietly playing some pretty good hockey this year. And of course, we do know one thing about Utah: it's down to
Oh yeah.
two, and at this point,
Well, yeah. And
it's either the Mammoth or the Utah Hockey Club.
well, well, things are getting interesting over there in Salt Lake City. So apparently, the Utah Hockey Club, who I've called for a while, the Utah No Names, have filed a trademark extension for the Mammoth. And for what it's looking like, it's going to be the Utah Hockey Club. I'm sorry, Utah Hockey Club maybe going with the Mammoth for their official name, and they've moved forward with the filing and an extension for both the Mammoth and the Utah Hockey Club, leaving off the other name, which was the Outlaws, that was offered as an option when the fans were voting back in February.
Hmm. So we almost have a name, one way or the other.
Well, okay, so here's my initial reaction to this. I think they extended the Utah Hockey Club name for a little while longer because they
Hmm.
might make the playoffs. So what I think they're trying to do is they're trying to make it as bold as possible for Utah to potentially make the playoffs. Because again, as of right now, Utah is 8 points behind St. Louis, and
Right.
they have this belief that they might make the playoffs, and it's very, very possible. But you have teams like the Blues and the Wild that are right up there, and then you have Calgary and Vancouver that's pretty much sandwiched you at this point. So what I think is happening is they're trying to extend the name for the playoffs. And if they don't make it, then they're going to terminate the contract and they're going to call themselves the Mammoth. But until then, that's what it sounds like. It's going to be the Utah Mammoth. What do you think?
I'm I think it's actually not a bad name, and I did see a potential leaked logo for them, which actually looked pretty interesting.
What did you do you have it?
I can definitely find it here for you.
Not the one that was leaked in February. Are you talking about that one?
There were, I mean, one of them is the one that was leaked in February, but I do want to try and take a look back at like one of the new things that's come out though, because I know that they did file that extension, but just trying to find the actual logo that I had seen though. Shit, and
Oh,
what I should have done is copied and pasted it earlier, but that's all right. But in either side though, I mean, it really wasn't that bad for what we saw, and it was actually one of the ones that had been leaked probably about 2 months ago, and actually, I think you might have seen this, so I'm gonna send this to you just so you can see exactly what it is. But I think
okay.
it is one of the ones that was leaked about a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, I've seen this one. This is when I would. This actually came out when I went on vacation back in February when I went on my cruise when you had Rob Hazu.
Hmm.
Yeah, I saw this when I was on vacation, but I didn't see it until I got back to New Orlando when I got off the ship. So I didn't see anything until that point. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this were the logo. But then again, I don't really think that's the final look. And people say, well, those look
Hmm.
ugly, all three of them. I'm like, it's probably just a prototype. I would
Yeah.
imagine that they probably have something else cooking that's on the stove right now. I would imagine that Ryan Smith, because he's a very smart businessman.
Hmm.
So what I think is going to happen is um, because they already had a deal in place, we talked about it last week, where Ryan Smith was going to allow the fans to use the Utah Hockey Club Plus, app to watch games for free for not
Hmm.
only the rest of the season, but potentially to host the playoff game.
Yeah.
Um, I also think that it's going to get to a point where he's going to pick a better logo, but I think what would be really nice would be if they were to actually vote on the logo. That's I think would
Yeah.
be pretty nifty. And then in like June you can unveil it or something. I don't really know what they're gonna do, but it would be a very nice presentation for the fans to at least see what they have going. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Absolutely. And then on top of that, Pat Maroon has decided to call it a career because he has announced his retirement.
Yes, he has. And with pretty much 10 games left to go, 12 games left to go, Patty Maroon is going to be hanging up the skates for the final time this year. And he's been playing in the NHL for almost 15 years, almost 20 at this point. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
A 17-year career in the NHL, and yet Patty Maroon is going to hang up the skates one last time. And this guy is running away as a three-peat champion in the NHL.
Hmm.
2019 with the Blues, back to back in 2020 and 2021 with the Tampa Bay Lightning. That is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Good career, with all of that as well. And then on top of that, the great chase continues because Ovechkin is only 6 goals away from hitting the record, as he
Yep.
is now at 889 after scoring two the other night.
You know what's funny? Everybody was fear-mongering that the Sabres were going to fall victim into this whole, oh, Ovechkin's going to break the record against Buffalo mentality. But at this point, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, yeah, Ovi pretty much wants to break that record, but at the same time, it's going to be crazy to think that Ovi has a shot to break this record. Unless he somehow scores a hat trick tomorrow,
Hmm.
then that's still the possibility.
Right, right. But it's good to see. I mean, he's having a good season, even with having that broken leg earlier in the year. I mean, Ovechkin has really turned it up, and he's been firing on all cylinders. And we were thinking originally last year, if he didn't break the record this season, it was going to be early next season. It realistically could be right before the end of this season, the way he's going.
Well, there's still a whole month of hockey left to go,
Yep,
if not 3 weeks.
yep.
So the season I think ends like April 17th, and the playoffs start on like April 20th. So really, there's a possibility that he could very well break this record by the end of the season. And that's not a bad thing because you know what? Honestly, I was expecting him to break the record early next season,
Hmm.
but he's already exceeded expectations. So it's like, what did you expect? It's Alexander Ovechkin.
Yeah, and he missed 4 weeks. So the fact that he was able to come back and have multiple multi-goal games, I mean, it's he turned it on. And you know what? In next season, it's just adding more on top of the record to the point where nobody would probably reach it.
Oh yeah, no, big time. But I did read that if Ovi achieves his goal, and there's a 95% chance at this point he's going to do it. I said it all season long. I think he's going to do it.
Hmm.
And Ovi is on the verge of breaking this record, and he's probably going to be the greatest goal scorer in National Hockey League history. No questions asked about that. But I did read that if once he breaks this record, he's going to retire from the NHL and he's going to go over to the CSK Moscow and play in the KHL and finish up his career, similar to what Yarmir Jagr did in the Czech League.
Hmm. Yeah, and look at how long Yager's career lasted. He only just retired last year.
Yeah, I mean, he could do whatever the fuck he wants. I mean, he's the owner of like Clando,
Yeah,
and he
and he
played for them,
retired in his
and he owns.
50s, and I mean, just the fact he was still playing hockey that far out, it's absolutely crazy.
I mean, hell, Ilya Kovalchuk just retired last week, and he was 41.
Yeah.
That's a hell of an accomplishment. But keep in mind, Kobe is a dick. Okay,
Hmm.
after what he did to the Devils,
Yeah.
and the Devils paid the price for it because of that jackass.
Yeah, they
So
did.
all because he said, "Oh, I'm making 77 million. Cool. I'm going to make more over in Russia." And then they had
Hmm.
to buy his contract, and then they were punished with forfeiting a first round pick or something like that. There
Yeah.
is always controversy with New Jersey in that time span, but this will not happen to the Capitals because Ovi has made it very clear that once he ends that streak or once that comes to an end, he's going to retire and he's going to play the rest of his days in Moscow.
There you go. And I mean, when that day comes, it'll be a sad day for the Capitals, but it's also the sad day for the NHL because he's absolutely one of the greats. There's no question about it. So,
Oh yeah, he's one of the all-time greats, and Sidney Crosby too. Like
hmm,
Malkin is likely going to retire soon. Crosby is going to like retire. So even though
yeah,
he just signed an extension, Crosby's going to retire soon. Malkin's going to retire soon. Ovi's going to likely retire. Nicholas Backstrom wants to come back for one more playoff run before he
hmm,
retires. Phil Kessel, I think, already said, even though he's not really on any team, he won a cup 2 years ago with
hmm,
Vegas, and he's likely going to retire a lot of players, and it's crazy to think in this era that we're in, it's crazy how I've been watching all those players I just listed since I was 12 years old.
hmm.
Okay? I was 11, 12 years old when all those players got drafted into the NHL.
Right.
Ovechkin was 21 years ago.
Yeah,
That's insane.
absolutely. Who would have thought that it's already been that long since they've been in the league? I mean, it's just absolutely crazy.
I mean, it's nuts. But then again, don't be sad because it's ending. Be happy
Hmm.
because it happened.
Yeah,
We
and
were able to be we were able to be fortunate enough, you and I,
hmm,
sir, to be in this era to watch two of the best players on the planet being competitive against one another
yes,
for nearly 20 years. And the fact that Crosby, Malkin, and Ovechkin, or I'm sorry, I should rephrase that. Crosby, Ovechkin, and Malkin, the fact that all three of them are going to retire soon is pretty insane to think.
hmm,
And on top of all that, they're all going to end up in the Hall of Fame.
yeah, They will. They will. And I know you know this. I've actually seen Crosby and Malkin play live. I've gone to some games in Pittsburgh. We actually saw them play in Vancouver, so
Yeah.
we've gotten our share of being able to see them. And then of course, I mean Ovechkin. I do know if I get to catch a Capitals game, and that's going to be one where it would be great to see him play one more time. But I've been able to see Crosby and Malkin play together at least, I want to say, four times now, including what we
What,
saw in
in the
Vancouver.
playoffs?
No, no, got to see Crosby and Malkin play live, I think, on four different occasions, including what we saw when we were in Vancouver about 6 months ago.
Yeah. One thing I will say, and I've never revealed on the show, is I'm very proud of this. Is I was very fortunate to see both Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby play in the playoffs, both
Nice.
times at the Nassau Coliseum. Did I ever tell you that story?
I don't think you did.
Well, I'll give you a brief stint. So I saw Crosby twice in the playoffs. I saw him in Game 4 in the 2013 Stanley Cup playoffs at the Coliseum. I saw the Penguin. Yeah, Game 4, or it might have been Game 3. I think it was Game 3 actually. Now that I think about it, yeah, it was Game 3 in 2013 against the Penguins. And this is when the Penguins had Jerome McGinley. And I saw the Islanders play the Penguins at the
Hmm.
Coliseum in 2013, and I saw 2 years later. I saw this was the last year, the first time at the Coliseum, but before they moved to Barclays. And this is the year where the Islanders had Yarhalak. I saw Alex Ovechkin and I saw Nick Backstrom play together in 2015 in the quarterfinals against the Islanders, where it went 7 games. And I went to Game 4, and the Caps won that game in overtime.
Hmm.
And in 2019, I was in that classic Game 1 game against the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2019 with Josh Bailey scoring the overtime winner. I was at that game.
Nice. Nice.
So I have very fond memories of both Crosby and Ovechkin playing in the NHL. And I've seen both of these players multiple times. And I also saw Crosby with you in another country.
Yes, we did. That was one of the fun things we did where we took our trip to Vancouver for the day when we did our big Seattle trip over to watch the Bills. So we got to see some fun stuff. We did three different games that whole week we were there. So of course we got to see the Kraken play where they played against Winnipeg. We got to see, of course, Vancouver and Pittsburgh play against each other, and we ended up on the jumbotron, which was fun. And then we also, of course, got to see the Bills kick the living crap out of Seattle, so that was even better.
And if everything goes according to plan, which I don't think it's going to be, but because of scheduling and my trip and all that stuff, with my cruise, I have to be a little careful about this, but I'm hoping to go to an Islander playoff game. If they make the playoffs this year, more than likely they're going to play the Caps. So I
Nice.
think if anything, I would love to see Ovi in the playoffs one last time before he
Yeah,
retires. That's what
yeah,
I want.
that would be a good one. That'd be a good one to see. So, and if it turns out that that's the case, and he decides to hang up the skates in the NHL, then at least it was a good time where we got to see greatness in terms of goal scoring, and it's just there is nobody that's gonna duplicate that effort.
No, never,
Yeah.
never.
So So that being said, we covered a lot of stuff tonight in the last
Yes, we
75
did.
minutes. So we covered a lot of good stuff. But before we wrap up, were there any other things you wanted to talk about?
Yes, I do actually. George Foreman passed away this past week.
Yes, may he rest in peace. Big time career, and he did a lot of great things for the sport of boxing.
Well, it's not only just boxing. He did a lot of great things for people in general.
Yep.
I mean, he was one of the greatest boxers of all time, and he was in an era with Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali and all those great
Hmm.
boxers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he also invented the George Foreman grill.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And of course, who could forget the call? Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. So
Yep, and Foreman won that fight.
yeah, he did. That was a huge accomplishment.
Absolutely. And I think both him and Muhammad Ali beat Joe Frazier. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah. One legend that will never be forgotten.
Never. Muhammad Ali is one, and now George Foreman.
Yep.
Joe Frazier, I think, is no longer with us. I could be wrong.
I think he did pass on a while back.
I have to double check on that. So, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
he
follow.
actually died in 2011.
Oh, yeah. So all three of them are dead. Muhammad Ali, George Foreman,
Hmm.
and Uh, yeah, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, and
Yeah,
Joe Frazier.
Frazier, and then yeah, the only one out of those out of like a good big four, Larry Holmes is still alive, and he's right now 75, but he was also big time professional boxer back in the day.
Well, if you want to get technical, you could talk about Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson. You could still talk
Hmm.
about that.
Yeah, yeah, but no, it's definitely some legends of that time. So Godspeed to George Foreman, of course.
Yeah, and to think that Mike Tyson is only 58 years old, the dude's not even 59 yet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, he's one of the best of all time.
Yeah, of course, of course. So no, Godspeed to George Foreman, and we're all thinking of his family and everything. So, definitely, he's going to be one that the sports world will definitely miss, and of course, did a lot of good things for a lot of people. So may he rest in peace.
Absolutely. May he rest in peace.
Yep. So, with that, you know what? We'll go ahead and we'll wrap up for the week, and then as far as I know, where are we on next week? Wednesday or Thursday?
We're actually on next Wednesday. We're gonna actually be on next 2 weeks because I will tell you now when my next game is. Give me 1 second.
Hmm.
This Wi-Fi is a little slow, so forgive me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was supposed to play tonight, but I told you earlier I had a bicep tendonitis problem, so I couldn't do shit. So I
Hmm.
sat out. My next game is actually on Wednesday, April 9th at 11 p.m.
Ooh,
So,
ooh, late night hockey.
yeah, so we could do the episode technically, but we would have to get out of the house by like 1:30. I mean, I'm sorry, by like 9:30. We
Right.
could technically do the episode, but
Sure.
I would have to. So basically, we would have an hour, 30 minutes, and then I'd get the fuck out of the house.
You'd be
And
hauling ass over to the rink.
yeah, and it takes me like 25 minutes to a half an hour because I have to drive from Merrick all the way to Bethpage, which is, I'm sorry, yeah, my mistake. Yeah, Bethpage. So I
Mhm.
had to go through Merrick, Levittown, and then I have to go from there to Bethpage and then to Farmingdale. That's
Mhm.
where I have to be. Fucking Farmingdale, but it's considered Bethpage.
Gotcha. Yeah, a little bit of ways away for you. So, but it's all well and good. So, for the next couple weeks, hey, we're on our usual Wednesday night, and then of course we'll switch to Thursday during the hockey week, and then we'll go from there. But all is good. So we'll do. Hey, we'll call it a week. But as always, of course, we appreciate you joining us. And if you want to watch some of our previous episodes, go to YouTube or Spotify. We do have our episodes up. And of course, for everyone that commented, thanks for joining us again as well. As always, take care of yourselves and each other.